Hi everybody, so let's get started. This video is part of an online module of resources to support our school improvement plan. Recall that our instructional focus is differentiation, and we will get into that topic by first talking about reading strategies. We know that expert readers have conversations with text. These are internal conversations, hence the title, Voices Inside Your Head, and we need our students to learn how to have those conversations with the text as well. To that end, our learning target for this online module will be teachers will be able to model strategies to support student reading comprehension. So I'd like you to pause this video and read the passage from the module called Challenging Text. And your purpose for reading that will be to identify the evidence that led Walter Alvarez to hypothesize that an asteroid had slammed into the Earth. So, how did you work your way through this text? What barriers did you encounter and how did you get past them? How did you figure out how Walter came to his conclusion? Pause the video just for a little bit and take some time to consider these questions. So, I've heard a student in the past say, when I read it, I just say the words. And that might be true for a lot of our students. They are actually pretty good at decoding. It's just not processing what they're reading, and that's what we're going to try to help them with. So, how do we get kids beyond this? How do we get kids to have those conversations with the text? And how can we get them to develop that voice inside their head that goes beyond just reading the words? So, when you are a good reader, what might those voices say? You might say something like this: I just read those words, but I have no idea what I just read. Or, that makes me think of a situation I was in once. Or maybe, I'm not sure what that means. Or how can I use the information I'm reading? I wonder why the character made that choice. Based on the title, I think something good will happen to the main character. Each of those voices that you just heard represents a strategy. Recognizing you're not paying attention, making connections with personal experience, identifying parts you don't understand and taking action, and answering questions about the text and trying to answer, identifying information that is helpful and information that is not, and making predictions. These are all ways that you can interact with text. So how do you get students to use these strategies? Is it the just do it model where you assign reading and you tell them, okay, when you read this, I want you to try to make connections with the text and just hope that they can do it? And as you can imagine, our students don't necessarily know what it means to make connections, and they won't be able to just do it. So the key is direct modeling, probably through a think aloud. And let's talk a little bit more about what that means. So how can you make direct modeling work? The key is being explicit. This isn't a secret what you're doing with the students. You want them to know exactly what you're doing with them and why. So this is something you might start out a think aloud when you are doing this. You could say, I'm going to show you a strategy used by good readers, and this is what it sounds like in my head when I read. Again, you're being explicit, you're telling them exactly what you're doing. Now, there are some steps to supporting reading comprehension. So the first is you're going to choose several strategies that make sense for your content area. There's a list of some strategies in this online module that you can look at. You're going to explicitly model these strategies, and it might just be one at a time, or it might be more than one at a time. It depends on the strategy and the text that you're using. And then you want to allow students to practice. And there are a couple of ideas that you can use for this. One is a sticky note strategy, and the other is something called double entry diaries. And let's talk about those two real quickly. So with sticky note practice, let's say, for example, the strategy that you're talking about is using the strategy of making connections. So when you assign a text and you ask students to practice this after you've modeled it, you give them some post-it notes and you ask them to write on the post-it notes when they have made a connection. So for example, with the difficult text that we read earlier, somebody that's reading that text might write something like this. The layers of sediment made me think about the rings in tree trunks and how they help you determine the age of the tree. So it made me think of the idea of layers, like the layers of clay and silt that were in the article, that are telling a story, and that seems similar to me. So that's an example of how a student might make a connection with the text. The other strategy is something called double entry journals. And it's really just a two-column table. And on the left-hand column, you provide a reference to the text that has caused you to make a connection. And usually it's maybe just a few words or a quote or maybe a page number. And then on the right-hand side, the student writes the connection that you made. So I wrote again about the tree trunk connection that I made with this article. And also, I found it interesting that a certain chemical compound found in the clay led to this widely accepted hypothesis about what happened to the dinosaurs. I just thought that was interesting to me as well, so I wrote that down. But you can use the double entry journals for any of the strategies that you are modeling for students and giving them practice with. So, what is our end goal here? The idea is that you will model a variety of content-appropriate strategies so students can employ those that work best for them. Providing a variety of strategies to match different learning profiles is one strand of differentiation, and that's really a key point here. We are not deciding that there is one really good strategy that will help students process text, and that's the strategy that they're going to use, because that just might not work for every student. The idea is that you're giving them several strategies, and you're going to let them choose which one works for them in a particular situation. And it could vary from situation to situation which one works best for them. And another piece of this, which we'll talk more about later, is allowing for student reflection and asking them, did that strategy work for you? If it did, why? If it didn't, why not? So there is a reflection piece that is part of this as well. And again, that's something we'll talk about later in the school year. The list of strategies found in this module is not exhaustive. So this is a conversation that you're going to have with your PLC. And that conversation will be, what strategies does an expert reader of your content use? These are the strategies you will model with your students. They may or may not be on the list that's in this module. You may have other strategies that are specific to your content level that you know will help students process text. So your PLC will be thinking about this and deciding which strategies you think will help your students the most. So the question I want to leave you with: are you just assigning students to read and then hoping they can pull out the information to complete the assignment, or are you providing the support and strategies they need to increase reading comprehension? Please review the other resources that are in this module, and in the next couple of weeks, pick a text and a strategy and practice explicitly modeling for your students and give them an appropriate strategy to practice with that strategy. So maybe try the sticky notes or maybe the double entry diary, but at least give them the opportunity to practice. Also, please take the short professional learning assessment that's at the bottom of this module. And as always, if you have any questions, please let me know.